croeso, everybody. Thank you for coming along today to the launch of our Breathing Space Ignite evaluation. We'll probably be about 45 minutes, I'd imagine. We did have two little films to show you. We can't get one to work, so we will skip over that one when we get to it. But next slide, please, Alicia. So I should introduce myself. I'm Lisa Davis, the Chief Executive at Tanio. For those of you who don't know what Tanio is or what we do, we're a small arts charity based in Betws in Bridgend. And we use art as a tool to ignite communities, which is Tanio in English, ignite creativity in people, and also ignite change or social change. So that's where the art and health work that we do sits mostly, although it does ignite that creativity and community as well, which you'll see are some of the findings that come from this evaluation. So, like I said, Tanio is based in Betws, but we work across Bridgend and South East Wales mostly. We have a long heritage of being in the valleys, in the Garw valleys. We were born out of Valley and Vale Community Arts. We became Tanio about 7 years ago. And alongside our wonderful art and health programme, of which Breathing Space is the flagship, we also do work around arts and the environment, work with people around social value, as well as putting on lots of free family fun art events, from cinemas, workshops, musics, open mic, anything that is an escape for our communities to come along to and engage with the arts. A little bit about Breathing Space. I'm not going to tell you too much about that because Tom's going to do that. But Breathing Space, again, has been around probably in some shape or form for about coming up to 10 years. When I first started at Tanio in 2019, we had a breathing space in Pontypridd and we had something called Butterfly Garden in Betws. And those were the two. They ran sort of independently, but were very similar. And when we started to look at the new strategy for the organisation, it became clear that breathing space had something really special. And we began to call Butterfly Garden Breathing Space and started to look at it in a more holistic way of how we could get breathing space out as a free well-being service and mental health service for more people in Bridgend. I'm going to hand you to Tom now, who's going to do his next bit.
Thank you very much, Lisa. You can pop to the next slide now, please, Alicia. I realised when I made this slide looking at it today that it's too close to the edge, which kind of, it well describes my morning so far. I'm Tom Stupple. I'm the Programme Manager for Arts and Health at Tanio. Breathing Space is one of what is the programme perhaps I've been most involved with since my work here. It's our creative wellbeing programme, and really it was this stage of it has been funded by the Arts Council Wales through the Arts and Health and Wellbeing Lottery Fund, and we delivered it in partnership with the Arwen Cultural Trust, Mental Health Matters Wales, and the Cumtaf Morgannwg University Health Board. We developed this stage of the programme in response to rising concerns around mental ill health and social isolation and community disconnection, something we see a lot of in the people who come to our work. Some of those challenges were intensified by COVID and the pandemic, and that's really where my input into this program started, which was coming along as a facilitator in one of these groups about 5 years ago. And from that, I became involved with Tanio and took on the role of program manager. The idea is that these are weekly creative workshops for adults of all ages and that foster safe and inclusive environments for creative exploration without requiring prior experience. So I run a music group that's for people who may never have played an instrument before, but we have a singing group, we have a visual arts group. That the aim of them are always to meet people where they're at and to create work that is accessible no matter what your experience level and what your confidence and skill is. They're all led by experienced artists, and the group run across 7 locations in South Wales. In 2025, we expanded our offering to include visiting artists, which meant as well as our regular artists, we had new art forms coming in, and that meant we could also bring new creative perspectives and have a big public exhibition. So that's a really bit of an overview of Breathing Space. There was a next video with a little bit of stuff, but we're going to skip that, but that's fine because actually I'm going to come back to some of that stuff as we go along. So you can probably skip this slide, please, Alicia. And really we're just talking a little bit about most significant change. So in order to really capture some of the things that are going on in breathing space, we kind of looked at what was the best methodology for us to use. And I think really Lisa and Alicia had seen the most significant change. And they were like, Tom, this is a way we could really better understand the work. And like for us, we're consistently evaluating what we do and looking at it, and finding good tools to do that is really hard. So for us, for me, coming into most significant change was really exciting because it's a real storytelling method which really suits what we're doing. So a little bit of background if you haven't come across most significant change. It was developed in the 90s by Rick Davis and Jess Dart for use in international development context. It's a participatory evaluation method that captures open-ended stories of change to understand a program's impact and generate insights to inform in future design and organizational learning. So I think that's what's really important, is it's about understanding what's going on for the people in the room so we can design the services better. So, you know, people are invited to share stories, excuse me, and have a conversation. And it's the important part of the process always centers on an open-ended question that allows them to answer in their own words, and which aims to capture not only what's changed, but why that change was meaningful. So it's about what changed and why that's important. All the 7 breathing space locations were visited between May and July of 2025. And the question that we asked is, thinking back over the time you've been coming to Breathing Space Ignite, what has changed for you as a result of taking part? So that's the open-ended question. Thinking back over the time, what has changed for you? And I think that's a kind of common, that fits with other questions that are asked in that process, but that's the starting question. Can you pop us onto the next slide, please? We chose the most significant change because it mirrored our ethos and the way breathing space works. So it's participant-led, it's flexible, and it's centered on lived experience. It is well suited for creative arts-based context, where the benefits can be quite broad and difficult to capture in standardized format surveys. I'm sure everybody here will have done those surveys. Do you feel better after you come in? Rate yourself from 1 to 10. And we think those can be really valuable, but this really goes a way looking deeper. And also for us, it allowed us to find out things that we wouldn't have guessed. So you can only ask the questions you know, can't you? You can only say, has this impacted this? But actually there were some outcomes here that really went further than we could have imagined, and we wouldn't have found that out with our usual questionnaires. It's hard to articulate the changes we notice in our participants. It's a feeling sometimes that their presence in the room. That's Ushi, one of our facilitators, does creative writing in Maesteg Town Hall. Unlike traditional monitoring tools, MSC, I'm going to just use that abbreviation for most significant change, does not rely on predefined or standardized measures. So it's not a scale, just as I was saying there. And there's a lovely quote here from Diane, which is, I think I read out when I did my last presentation. And Diane comes to one of our groups in Ogmore Vale, and she said, all I'm saying is this: it won't come out as well as I'm feeling it. The love, the feeling I get here, it's lovely. The fundraisers ought to come and see what it's like here, because they don't know, do they? And I think Diane captured exactly the challenges we always find. And that's why most significant change was so important to us, because it can bridge that gap. It can make what's felt there more visible for the people who support it. And I think that the second stage of most significant change is where we take those stories and we went in a room with the funders, with our partners, with the team, and we looked and we read through all those. There's 31 stories collected, and we read through them all, and we looked at which ones resonated most with where we felt the important work was happening. And it was such a powerful experience. I think nobody in the room was left without an emotional impact of it. And I think there was some tears, because some of the stories are so meaningful and powerful. And I don't think we would have caught them or found them so easy in any other way. So, I mean, I can only say positive things about most significant change. And I would put my hand on my heart and say, I hate evaluation. It's one of my least favorite things to do. I don't, you know, we do it and we think it's important because we want our work to be good, but it's not usually as impactful as this. Will you pop to the next slide, please, Alicia? Well, we're going to try this. We've had some technical problems. We haven't been able to show some videos, but just before we finished the part of the evaluation, Josie came in and we had an event for all the participants and the artists who've been working with, and it was our celebration of a sort of combination of that part of the project. And at that our independent evaluation, Josie Holy, came and did a talk there. So we've got that talk, and she really goes over some of the things that we'd have loved to have her here, but she started a new job and she couldn't come today. So we videoed the talk she gave in July. So if this works, you'll be able to hear what she said. So just bear in mind, she's talking to the participants here. So some of the stuff she does directly to them, but it kind of covers a lot of what the process was and what some of the feedback was. So if this works, you should be able to hear it now. I can see it, Alicia, but the sound doesn't seem to be coming through.
I told you we were having tech issues, didn't I, guys? We're going to try again.
Yeah, let me see here if I can change this.
I feel like it's back in the days. I feel like there's always some bits of tech you think you're ready for, and then they don't work exactly when you need them to.
Absolutely.
And we did test this. That's why you were all in a waiting room. We tested it and it worked and we could hear it and we were like, we've cracked it. This is what we're going to do. Right, go, Alicia. Let's try again. Let's try one more time.
Again, I've changed a couple of my settings now, so let's have a go and see if this is going to make a difference here now. This is take 2.
I have had the massive pleasure of being able to visit all of the Breathing Space Ignite groups.
Alicia, I don't think you can mute yourself.
Yeah, it totally stopped then. It was going so well.
Alicia, can you unmute yourself?
Breathing Space Ignite. Has anything changed for you as a result of taking part? And so across the groups, people shared 30 stories, which showed that Breathing Space has had a massive impact for all of you in lots of unique ways. So I was going to just feedback some of those to you and just spend sort of like 5-10 minutes just sharing back on 5 of the key outcomes that people shared across the groups. So the first change was that Breathing Space Ignite had helped lots of people feel better, improved your emotional well-being and your mood. And 22 people mentioned this, which is huge. That's lots of you. So people said that it gave them a space to kind of come, somewhere to take time away from things that were making them feel worried or making them feel stressed. Sometimes they arrived feeling anxious and jittery, but they left. They felt calmer, more positive, more hopeful, more relaxed. And so it helped with that by being a really safe and non-judgmental space. Lots of people said that it didn't matter how you arrived. You could get up in the morning, put on whatever clothes you wanted to wear. Didn't matter how you were feeling when you got there. If you came and you wanted a listening ear, there was one. But if you didn't want to speak to anybody, that was also completely fine. So people could take part on your terms. And also, the creative activities help people to focus and relax. So for some people, they said overthinking was something that they really struggled with, but being able to be there in that session and just focus on the activities, they felt much better. Or also, from doing the activities with the artists, they'd learned things that they could take away, so things that they could do at home whenever they were feeling a little bit upset or stressed after. And so it gave people something to look forward to. So I get up and I've got something to look forward to, whereas I never used to. Other people said that they get halfway through the week and they think, oh my, when is Breathing Space coming? You're counting down the days. So it was a really, really, really important break for people in the week, especially for carers, because those of you who are carers talked about how sometimes you were providing care for like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Breathing Space Ignite was the only time that you got for you in your week that was just your time. And so it was absolutely vital. And so more than feeling a little bit better, for about a third of people who shared their stories, so 10 people, you credited Breathing Space Ignite with actually preventing difficulties from getting much, much worse over the long term. So people had said that it helped them to feel like they were more resilient, more like they could keep going even when they were facing setbacks. So somebody said, it's kept me moving forward. It's actually kept me here. And so I think in terms of that, as well as all of these other ways that it helped people to feel better in general, what people said about that was the fact that it's on every week. So there were people who were waiting for other types of therapies or treatments, and they've been waiting for a really long time. or they'd had those therapies and treatments, but they'd stopped now. But somebody said, but this is the thing that keeps going. So they knew that they always had that space to come to. And actually, so this one I thought was quite lovely and surprising, but in terms of how it had helped different people with their changes, a few people said that as well as helping them feel emotionally better, it actually helped with physical health in a few different ways. And that was either through being like a ripple effect of feeling calmer, so it helped people to regulate their nervous system and feel more relaxed in their body. Or it had given people a kind of a reason to get out of the house, to keep moving. And that was movement that they felt that they needed after a period of illness or injury. And also through that, then it helped people by being an accessible space. So there were people that had said they'd had an accident or an illness or an injury, and maybe their physical mobility was a bit different to what it used to be. But the breathing space facilitators had found ways for them to participate so that they could still take part. And that in itself had helped them to feel better. Number 4, then, this was also another really big one, was confidence and self-esteem. So some people said that it helped them feel more confident socially, more able to speak to people, more able to be in group settings, more able to make eye contact. So someone said before, I wouldn't look at people, I'd look to the floor. But now I look straight ahead and I'm happy to talk to people. I'm happy to make eye contact. Other people had even stepped into new roles as a result of coming to breathing space, either from leading the groups themselves or roles outside of that. And also, it had helped a lot of people to kind of reconnect with who they felt they were before difficult life changes. So it has helped me reconnect with who I was as a person. It's brought my confidence back. And so the creativity and new skills then, that was one of the key ways that it had helped people build confidence. So people spoke about how taking part in the activities was more than just something that you actually quite enjoyed doing. It was really fundamental to who you felt that you were as a creative person. And people spoke about how they really valued having skilled artists, especially people who had studied art but maybe hadn't necessarily been doing any art for years. They valued being able to have those like fantastic artists to teach them new techniques that they wouldn't have learned otherwise. And the last one then, which was something that actually almost everybody spoke about, 26 people mentioned this, was that Breathing Space Ignite had helped them to feel like they belonged somewhere and they had friends. So there were people who'd come and they'd experienced really difficult periods of grief. Maybe they didn't know anybody, they'd moved to a new area and they didn't know anyone, or they'd had a period of illness and were feeling really isolated. But through coming to Breathing Space Ignite, strangers have become friends. And people said that it was being able to come to a safe space where they felt like other people just got it. They didn't need to explain anything. So it's being around people who are in a similar headspace. We all get it. And it's helpful and relaxing to know that we're not on our own. So for some of you, it was the best part of the week, hands down. For other people, it helped people feel like things were just a little bit more on track when maybe they weren't necessarily before, or it was preventing things from getting much worse in the long term. But of every single person that I spoke to, Breathing Space Ignite was really significant to them in your unique ways. So thank you all for sharing your stories. So like Tom said, this is not finished. The next part of this is these stories are all going to be read by Tanio and partners and funders to learn from them about how to do more of the things that are making Breathing Space Ignite so fantastic for all of you. So thank you for sharing your stories.
Well, thank you for playing that, Alicia. For me, it's so emotional hearing that, because I know a lot of the people whose those stories talk about. And I don't know if, Lisa, if you wanted to say anything more about the actual event where we looked at the stories together.
Sure, yeah. So I think you'll get from that, you can see just how powerful this methodology is. But the next step was something that we were really keen to do, to not just stop at collecting the stories. So our building in Betws, we invited board members, facilitators, funders, other partners to come along. I think there was about 15 of us in the room on the day. It was amazing. We had representation from the Arts Council, from Bridgend, County Borough Council, board members, like I said, and we split into groups, and Josie gave us a number of the stories to read. And then we had to decide what we felt from the group of 5-10 stories we had. we had to pick our top 3 that had the most significant change. And it isn't about ranking, but it's about understanding what the people, so the group I was with a funder, I was with a board member, and I was with a partner organisation. I think Helen's on the call now, who was with me. And it was about having those conversations. It was horrible picking which one you thought was the most significant, because they were all so significant. But so then we had to discuss them. So we had about an hour or so doing that in 3 separate groups. And then we came together and presented the top 3. So we got 9 stories to then do. That bit was really, really emotional. People had to take over. We were reading the stories out. There was a number of times when people had to take over from the person reading because they became so upset. We had a facilitator in the room who we read a story, and they had no idea the impact they'd had on that person. And they wouldn't have known that without us collecting the story in their own words. It was a really rich conversation. We could have done with 3 more hours. We had to stop off. But then Josie used that to form the final evaluation. And Tom's going to bring us on to some of those impacts, and you'll see it in the form. But I think for me, what's sometimes left out of evaluation is that discussion between the partners and the funders, because everybody can watch a film and read an evaluation, but when you've got to think about it and talk about it and really dig into what people have said, it just does something a bit more. You realise we all know the impact. We see it day in, day out. But even I was like, oh, wow, I had no idea. 3 people told Josie that they didn't take their own life because of Breathing Space Ignite. That's 3 from 30. We see sometimes 70 people a week. Can you imagine what the real number of that is? So yeah, I think lots of people have used the story collection element of MSc. And I would say, as a leader who isn't in the space as much as Tom is, and who's sort of doing the strategy and the fundraising, that next step of sharing with stakeholders is a really important step that shouldn't be skipped, because there's a lot of richness that comes from that as well. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Lisa. Elise, would you mind putting the slides back up? I think number 8. Ah, perfect. That's the one. Oh, we're back to the beginning. I like the beginning too. So Josie talked a little bit about some of the impacts, and I just wanted to come back to those for a second, because we had 3 of these were our objectives: social connection, improved mood, and confidence were all part of our plan, what we'd be trying to achieve. And we kind of that in our report, you'll see they were part of our objectives, how we could help in social, and that's really what we felt the work did. But the prevention and the support for physical health and recovery were both outcomes that we wouldn't have known about had we not done MSc. So it was a really valuable point for that. And I think Josie talked about some of these in the video, but I'll just say them again. The social connection and reduced isolation. So most people describe making friends, feeling less lonely, and feeling seen, valued, and supported, and as being part of a community. And I think that's what Josie mentioned in her talk as well, was the belonging that I think a lot of people have. And I think lots of people are looking for that, and the world struggles to find it now. Improved mood and longer term well-being. So I think that we saw that really clearly, that people felt less anxious, more relaxed, and that those benefits extended beyond the sessions and contributed to greater feelings of resilience. And I actually see that in some of the people we work with. I can see them coming in taller, and I think we'll hear that in the story later on. Confidence and self-esteem, and I think we work really hard on the confidence, because I've talked to some of the other facilitators about this. Some people come in the room and as adults come into an artistic activity you don't do. It's probably one of the scariest things you can do. I think it's, I can imagine that for some people skydiving would be less scary than coming in a room and being. I run drama workshops sometimes, and asking people who've never done drama as an adult to come and do it, I can see a look of terror in their faces, and I understand that fear. And I think we've always tried to build activities that allow people to succeed without making challenges that are impossible for them. So having arts and visual activities that are just that step between, looks amazing but is actually achievable for everybody. So I think we're always, as facilitators, we're always trying to find those activities that are easy to succeed at, and success is really important for us, so people feel that confidence. And I think that's really part of the program that's really core to how we work. And the prevention, the fact these things were amazing for me. The fact that breathing space played a vital role in preventing escalating crisis, especially during tough times. These were things that we did know this to some extent. We saw it sometimes, but it was really good to hear it reflected back to us. And that support for physical health and recovery, which I think is we don't always see that as part of confidence and, that improvements we see. We don't always know how big an impact that might have on someone's physical health. Could you pop to the next slide, please, Alicia? And I know Josie talked about this, but I think these are really important for us, that these are safe and non-judgmental spaces. So how we run these breathing spaces is really important. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, but alongside every group, alongside the artist leading the workshop, there's a wellbeing assistant who helps support the wellbeing and support the running of the group. So we always have 2 people in the room, and I think that's part of the process of making it really well. We also, we really believe in supporting our artists and our wellbeing assistants, so they also get support. So when they are dealing with those difficult things, they have a chance to talk about that in an informal and non-managerial sessions. So we're trying to create safe, non-judgmental spaces. We want creative activities that are led by skilled artist practitioners. Everyone who runs the breathing space is an amazing artist, and the work they create is incredible, but their skill at helping other people create incredible work is one of the things that really makes the work successful. It's a space to connect. I always say a cup of tea and a biscuit is part of breathing space, because it's how we connect with people, and that we often make the tea and coffee for people. If I go and visit a group, I make the tea and coffee for people, because it's part of welcoming them into the space and saying, the doors are open, come in, have a cup of tea. That is part of the ethos of what we do. And the consistency and the reliability, being able to run 40 weeks a year, 7 sessions a week, is massive. And it's a big program, a long-term program that, we had that some wonderful money from the Arts Council, and then we've managed to stretch it out with some money from BCBC, from the local council. And we've managed to, we're still running now, and we're really hoping that we can keep this program going, because I feel like its impact is massive. So that consistency is really important. And the accessibility, adaptability, and inclusion. And I'm committed to that accessibility, that every time we try and make work, the work is accessible, the building's accessible, and that we change things to make them work for the people in the room. And I think that's, regardless of people's health, ability, race, personal circumstances, we are committed to trying to make this work as accessible and as inclusive as we can. We thought it'd be really nice to end with a couple of the stories that people shared. And I don't think Josie said in the report, but when we asked people to share stories, we asked if they wanted to be anonymous. And a lot of people didn't want them to be anonymous. They wanted to put their names on it. So you might see some of I can't remember if I shared some of the ones with names on or not, but what was really interesting is people were really happy to have, like, sometimes we do anonymized data for lots of things, but for these stories, people said, I'm happy for my name to be there. I want my name to be there. So I'm not sure which ones I put up, but at least if I read one out and you read one out, and then maybe if there's time, we'll do a third one. I'll do the first one. I might not read the whole thing, but would you pop to the next slide? Yes, that number 10. Oh yeah, there we go. Building rippling support networks. So this was against, each of these stories comes against one of our outcomes. So this was against social connection and reduced isolation. So at home, I'm usually overthinking things, dwelling on things that may or may not happen. That's what I do in the house. It's hard to come here, and I do sometimes, but when I do, it feels so good. Like this morning, for example, I didn't really want to come because I haven't been right, but I thought, do you know what? I'm going to push myself. So I walked down with Michelle from Mental Health Matters, and it's lovely then I'm here, and it's just that pushing yourself to get out and come. We all like a chat here. We have a chat. We tell each other our personal struggles. We have the support here. It can be as simple as when someone wanted to move somewhere, but they needed a mobility lift. I had seen on social media that somewhere else was renting out a house where this young girl could have the lift she needed. And so she moved in, and it's been life-changing for her. And that's come from us doing this here together, getting to know each other through breathing space. We all go for a Christmas meal together, and we do a quiz, and we miss Beth when she's not here. The art helps me feel calmer. It's therapeutic. This is what I find brings me down instead of sat there thinking of what could happen or couldn't happen. Sometimes when you're having a a really bad couple of weeks like that I've had, then you can just sit here and concentrate on this one thing. It blocks everything else out around me. I'll finish there. I feel like that's such a powerful story, and I wanted to say that, you know, that story about the lift, you know, about someone who needed a mobility house, the impact was massive, and we see that in that peer support, that people are finding out things that they wouldn't otherwise, and they're getting to help. There's a natural networking and signposting that goes on that's outside of, you know, we have some really good signposting organizations within Bridgen, but outside of that, there's that peer signposting, which has been really valuable. So if we pop to the next story, please.
Okay, I'll do this one. This one is around, the key theme from this was prevention. Keeping me moving forward, keeping me here. I've been coming to Breathing Space Ignite this past year, but I was doing mental health matters before that, and I still go there as well. I'm autistic and have ADHD and also complex trauma. I'm waiting for trauma therapy, which I find that I really need in recent times. I need it sooner than later. I feel very isolated and alone. I'm in constant flux and reliving everything all the time and trying to move forward without judgment from other people, which is what I struggle with. Being able to communicate properly, I feel misunderstood and like I've never fitted in anywhere properly. I suppress, and it's all coming out these last 5 years. And I've lost my support as well, so I'm just sort of hanging on. Since doing the Connecting Carers and coming to Breathing Space, it's made me less suicidal. It's helped me to be able to process a bit better and have a bit more peace and a bit more direction in where I want to go in my life a little bit as well. While I'm waiting for therapy, this has been helping because it's another focus again, which is great. This just gives that time and space where I can relax and chill and not have to worry about everything. It's having that productive procrastination. It's being around people who are in a similar headspace or brain patterns as well. We've all been traumatized and we get it. It's just relaxing and helpful to know we're not on our own. But yes, these groups are amazing and have helped me a lot in keeping me moving forward and keeping me here. Next week, half term, will be difficult now. That's because we generally work to a pattern of school holidays to try and make the money go as far as we can. So yeah, I think you can see the impact is literally life-saving for this participant.
Thanks, Lisa. Would you go to the slide 14 if you can? It's the one with confidence and self-esteem. We've got there's quite a few stories, but I won't read them all because I think actually you can read them in the report and that'd be really nice. But I thought I'd finish with this one. And this is one of our participants who some people want to come to more than one of the groups. And so as you'll hear in this story, someone's come to a couple of the groups and talks a little bit about it. The story is called Now I Look Up. I've been coming to Breathing Space as long as it's been running, really. I forget how long now because I've been enjoying it. I was going to the Connecting Carers group, but that's finishing now, unfortunately. I go to the one in Ogmore with Beth. I come to the Monday one with Tom, and the choir is good as well, mind. I hope it continues because it helps people with their anxiety and depression and everything like that. To be honest, I find it really helps. I experience new places, doing new things, meeting new people, socializing, all that. It's helped me focus and it's helped me to meet people. Before, a few years ago, I couldn't look at people. I couldn't have eye contact with anybody. I'd just be looking down at the floor. It was hard, but now it's helped me build my confidence up. I can have a proper conversation with someone face to face instead of looking away. And now if I see people on the road, I look up. Now I look straight ahead and I'm happy to talk to people. I make eye contact and I think to myself, they aren't looking at you. They aren't judging you. It's really helped with that. The choir has been the one that's really helped me the most because it's helped me coordinate with other people. It's helped me come out of my shell more because I wouldn't have thought I'd be singing. I feel like that's kind of the end of our presentation. So I hope that you found some things that are useful. And I just want to say thank you for bearing with some of our technical issues and the slightly delayed start. But any questions, anything you'd like to ask, please just, if you don't want to speak up, do an imaginary hand or just unmute yourself. When I say an imaginary hand, I mean the hand you can put up through. Shall we go off share screen and that'll be a bit easier? Thanks, Alicia.
Any questions? it's fine if it's not. You can always come back to us once you've had the report and ask us anything there. I think even from the little bit that Tom has shared, you can see the impact, the power of the work. And just to reiterate, some of the things that come out again and again about what makes Breathing Space Ignite work is that we work with skilled artists. We have a wellbeing assistant in the room, and that it's there week in, week out. And I'm not going to lie to you all, that's really hard to fund. And we're in that cycle now. We had someone in our breathing space a couple of weeks ago who, when they found out that it might not be coming back after Easter, had to leave the room because they were so distraught. And we can't let that happen to people. We have to find a way to change the funded model for these types of things. It isn't massively expensive in a grand scheme of things, but it does cost money to be able to make those safe spaces with professionals so that we can have the impact that we want to have on people. I'm also going to say, because Tom would never say it himself, but when they talk about adaptability, one of the stories that you'll read is in Tom's group, he's got a stroke survivor that comes along, and they were doing some guitar work, and he, because of his loss of mobility, he couldn't really join in, and Tom found a way for him to join in by making one note on a string so that he could do that and be part of the music session. And I think that's the reality of the skill that the artists have in the space. They're used to being dynamic, to adapting, and like Tom said, to meet people where they are, to keep that person-centered approach to the work. So yeah, like I said, Tom was never going to big himself up, so I'm going to do it for him. I give him one more chance for any questions, anybody, if you'd like any. Oh, Sarah, come on, Sarah. Brilliant.
Good morning, Lisa, Tom, Kelly. Thanks so much for your presentation this morning. I was lucky to see a presentation at the Social Prescribing Conference a couple of weeks ago, so I feel a little bit prepped, but it's great to feel the width of that, and also to look at the impact that the most significant change theory practice has had. And I'm particularly interested in the stakeholders group and how that went, because you mentioned that that came up quite a lot in the presentation, and how has it been since you've had that opportunity with your stakeholders to share that evaluation process? What would your reflections be, sort of looking back at the impact that process had for you?
I think for a number of the partners in the room, it was one of them said to me, oh, I forget about this because I'm sat in my attic office writing strategies and bids and trying to get the money out to you guys. And it's a really good opportunity because you can invite people to things all the time, but that's busy. But there was a task to do here, and we actually had more people turn up than I thought when we put the invite out. I was like, oh, are we going to get these people? But to have that sort of 12, 15 people in a room to do it, and to give up a full day of work. It was sort of a 4-hour session, but that's a full day of work. So I think it was really nice for the people in the room to experience what breathing space is and the impact, without having to go along to a breathing space and join in. Because if you do come along to a breathing space, which you're all invited to, you do have to join in. That's the rules. But yeah, I don't know if it hasn't forwarded the conversation anymore. Although saying that, Lisa from BCBC that came along was like, if we had more money, I'd give it to you in a heartbeat because this needs to continue. How do we make it continue? So those conversations are there. I just think it was really nice, wasn't it, Tom, to have all of the people in the room?
Yeah, I think so. Like having partners from Arwyn and Mental Health Matters in the room as well was really valuable. And I think we can't run without their support as well. So we can't run without the funding. We can't run without the partnership. And I think both those things were strengthened by that event. Like you say, it wasn't a magic. It didn't suddenly, it would have been lovely if they got, thanks, that was so good. Here's 10 years of funding. And that's not how the world works. But what I think it is the same as breathing space. There's a ripple effect of doing that, is that people are more aware of it, and it's in the other part of their conscious mind. Their emotional connection to it is important as anything, I think.
Yeah, great. Anybody else? Dan, I do have to say I'm loving your camera zooming in and out. I don't know why it's doing it, but it's like spotlighting you and then coming back, and I'm loving it. Absolutely
no idea.
If nobody else has got anything, we might just wrap up here. You'll receive an email with the link to the final report.
And both those films are on that link as well. So the one you missed, which is just a bit of a highlight of some of that stuff anyway. So, but it gives some of the facts and numbers as well alongside it.
Yeah, it sort of shows the numbers of people, attendances, the projected savings to NHS, social care, all of those kinds of things. So yeah, thank you so much for coming and sharing with us this morning. Please share with your colleagues. If you have any questions, drop Tom or myself an email. And yeah, thank you again for coming along. And a big thank you to Tom for all the hard work he does on Breathing Space. You know, it only works because of the team behind it as well. So thank you very much for that.